Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. My apologies for being a bit tardy. I have with me Col Ajay Singh. We were just trying to get some last minute gossip, and the gossip is very interesting. सबसे पहले तो sir, नमस्कार. Welcome to the show, and nice
Thank
to
you,
have you
Ali.
back.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure being on your show.
So sir, let's talk about एक थोड़ा सा interesting game चल रहा है, which is the factor that today I believe I haven't seen it by my own eyes. But the Saudis have in their family website, इन लोगों ने डाल दिया है कि भाई how we helped Israel. So that's very interesting to me. Now Saudis ne bada they've twisted it in another way that these drones were crossing over our territory, our airspace. So we really need to do something. We can't have any war happening in our airspace. We can't have our airspace being used. The Jordanian king, I mean, they're saying, oh, he's the son of a Jew. That's the negative part. And the interesting part is the Jordanian king's daughter was involved in an operation that shot down 5 drones. She's a fighter pilot. ये क्या हो रहा है सर? कौन किसकी हेल्प कर रहा है समझ नहीं आ रहा. ये तो the Muslim Ummah, so called the Islamic geopolitics.
Very, very interesting, Ali. Can I add on to this? Very interesting observation. इसमें एक और कहानी है. Like they say, when Iran launched their drones, they launched about 180 drones, about 120 cruise ballistic missiles, about 30 cruise missiles. They launched those Shahed drones. Old-fashioned drones, speed is about 200 kilometers per hour. In other words, it took them 3 to 5 hours overflying airspace to hit Israel. In that time, they were detected by the countries they overflew: Jordan, Saudi Arabia. Like they say, Iran had telegraphed its intentions that we are hitting Israel. Why did they telegraph the intentions? It is like saying, मुझे रोको नहीं तो मैं उसको मारूंगा.
Fixed match. So last night me and Raina had a conversation. We said one of the possibilities could be ये पूरी तरह से fixed match है. Everybody was there at the right time, सब लोग वहीं पर थे.
Iran had to retaliate. Its government has to. They have come up into power saying we are the strongman image. If they don't retaliate to an attack on Iranian territory which killed another of the generals, Soleimani ki baat to दूर है. They have to, so to show but they said we will retaliate so that we are shown to retaliate, but we don't cause damage. So when they overflew Jordan, Jordanians actually they shot down 5 drones supposedly over their territory, if not more. Saudi Arabia, we do not know whether they shot down any overflying it, but they definitely passed early warning information of drones and missiles. That is documented. Passing over the territory, because what happened, they have got US AD systems and radars in their territory, which is linked to the overall regional plan. So they have passed the information on to Israel. At the end of it all, Israel had got 3 to 5 hours of early warning, which is amazing. उनके सारे system active हो गए थे उसमें. So I will say, जैसे आपने बड़ा अच्छा word use, it was a fixed match. Yes, it was. I would say the attack, it was staged. Let me give you one more example. Remember पाकिस्तान उनका Iranian territory में एक attack हुआ था, जैश अदल ने किया. They launched a missile on Pakistan, which knocked off 3 huts. Pakistan launched a missile on Iran, which knocked down 5 huts and maybe killed a shepherd or something like this. Kahani khatam ho gayi. The same thing had happened. Look at the tenor of Israel's response. Look at the message they sent to the United Nations Security Council. We have retaliated, and look at the exact words. The matter deemed as closed. That statement says everything.
Ridiculous. I must say, it's so ridiculous that this is there. यार तुमको इतना कोऑर्डिनेशन करना है तो बैठ के बात करके अपनी इशू सॉर्ट आउट कर लो. Why create this nonsense that but in any case. But so the interesting thing is, a lot of people said कि China आ गया. मिडल ईस्ट में.
Uh-huh.
ठीक है. एंड चाइना ने ईरान एंड सऊदी अरेबिया की दोस्ती करा दी. अब तो पूरा जियो
Yes.
पॉलिटिक्स फ्लिप हो गया. अमेरिका तो भाग गया यहाँ से. यहाँ पर तो कुछ बचा ही नहीं है अभी अमेरिका का इन्फ्लुएंस ये वो. बट ये जो व्हाट इज हैपेंड राइट नाउ क्लियरली स्टेट्स चाइना कहीं नहीं है. इट इज नोवेयर. दिस इंटायर गेम हैज बीन प्लेड बाय अमेरिका एंड ये सारे दे आर ऑल पार्ट ऑफ. हाँ, नो प्रॉब्लम, विल डू इट. चाइना ने रिस्पॉन्ड करा है टू दिस अटैक आफ्टर 2 days. टुडे देयर आर स्टेटमेंट्स कमिंग आउट ऑफ चाइना. Otherwise, they just didn't say anything. And that's very interesting to me that इतना सब कुछ and the Saudi said, okay, fine, I'm friends with Iran, चलेगा, but ये ना, this is not okay.
You know, China and Russia. The Middle East is one of the strategically most important places in the world. Not so much important to USA now because they found oil in USA. Not so
Yeah.
important to Russia because Russia has got its own oil. But Russia has got interest in Syria and Iraq, Syria especially.
Hmm.
China has tremendous interest in the Middle East. Its entire economy flows through the Middle East like the Indian economy does. We are dependent on the oil. Now, when China made that famous deal, that rapprochement between Iran and Saudi, what was it? They agreed to re-establish diplomatic relations after 1979. ठीक है. It means we are good neighbors, let us say, and business is all. It was not a game changer. Game changer was the 25-year deal, economic and strategic cooperation deal, जो उन्होंने ईरान के साथ बनाया, in
$400 billion.
which they would have given Iranian oil to China, and China would invest in developing the Iranian economy. Now, with that actually would have been a game changer had it taken place. Not now, 10 years down the line, the food effect. Yeah, 10 years. But now, with the USA, now Russia, USA, like you very nicely about USA has played the whole thing to its advantage. Initially, I thought they were put on the back foot, but they played beautifully. एक तो
Beautifully.
Russia is too preoccupied by Ukraine to get back into Syria. They cannot play their hands in Syria. Wagner Group is no longer so effective as they might have used in Syria, like they did earlier on. So
Hmm.
USA was eased out of it, out of Syria and the Middle East also. Now, with Israel being under attack, they have made the right noises to support Israel. They have made the right noises to tell Israel to back off. And now, when Iran launches attack, they are making the right noises to say that we shall stand by Israel as a true friend and ally.
That's the
So,
Russian.
yes, even the ally, even the noise they have made is suddenly Israel, which was a victim, became an aggressor by its actions in Gaza. Now it's gone back to being the victim again. So they have won I would say at this stage, they have taken control of the geopolitical narrative once again. And
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
and very grudgingly, I must admit it was very well done.
Very well done, sir. I must say, sir, sometimes you really feel यार ये यूएसए का कुछ नहीं हो सकता, इतना दिमाग नहीं है इनके अंदर. But sometimes they play the game and you're like, wow, that was good. And अगर आप building on to what you're saying, रशिया को तो उसने engage कर रखा है वहां पर. Right now France is saying मैं आ रहा हूँ. अच्छा, वो bloody hell, hang on. There are massive attacks on Russia right now. So he's engaged them. And massive, very, subconventional attacks. Not very, उसके oil field में जाके मार दिया तुमने and all that. Irritating attacks, which Russia needs to look at. He needs to kind of focus on it because otherwise गड़बड़ हो जाएगी. ईरान को यहाँ फंसा दिया. ठीक है. So they're breaking they're breaking that so-called axis of evil जो Americans बोलते थे ना. It's broken. Because Russians की तरफ से जो statement आया है, oh no, we need everybody to calm down, de-escalate, this is not in the interest of everybody and this and that. But China की तरफ से statement आया कि भाई we stand behind Iran.
Yes.
So the axis is now left. One guy is now teetering, Russia saying, yaar, I'm not getting involved in this nonsense. These two are now left.
See, like I said, China and Iran, their axis is strong, very, very strong. It's mutually dependent. Like Russia and China are not mutually dependent. Russia is dependent on China, not the other way around, right? But the other important axis, which is being, like I brought out in the last show, in the Middle East, there are three pillars of power. Israel, it is the topmost. Saudi, which is the richest, and Iran, which has the greatest mischief-making potential and potential for economic and strategic development.
Spot on.
Right now, if China has got Israel, Iran with it, very nice. Saudi, if you take a look at the statements of the past year, was teetering between the USA and away from it.
वो आ गया
They did
वापस.
not like, जैसे आपने कहा, they did not like the criticism of MBS
Yeah.
when he killed Khashoggi, I think his name was, the
Khashoggi.
dissident. Yeah, yeah. They did not like criticism, and he didn't take to kindly. There was a cooling off period. There was a teeth. Israel was being taken by the Arab world to the Abraham's Accord. MBS and Netanyahu were to have got together 1 month before the 7th of October attack to kind of have an accord. MBS is looking to develop the Saudi economy beyond oil. Very correctly. The right lines,
I,
absolutely.
IMEC.
Right? Yeah, IMEC, yeah. IMEC, and more than that, he needs two things. He's got the money, he's got the oil, he's got everything. He needs technology and security. Technology will be given by Israel.
Security.
Security is being provided by USA, which is to be the net security guarantor for the region.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
if it is a net security guarantee for the region for both Israel and Saudi, can you imagine how effectively Iran will be sidelined?
Dusra, sir, I'll add a little masala to what you're saying. Iran is known to be nuclear now, right?
Yes.
Saudis have told the Americans, बहुत पहले बोला हुआ है कि साहब, you want us to deal with Israel? Make sure I have your nuclear umbrella or give me nukes. I am not shaking anything. You bloody pick up nukes from somewhere and give it to me. So that's where Pakistan comes into the place. The Pakistani is like, eeks, हमारी जाएंगी.
Yes.
Because the Saudis have a nuclear facility, by the way, in Saudi Arabia, exactly the same which is there in Kanpur in Pakistan. It's a carbon copy.
Right. The Sunni bomb, Pakistan gave it to them.
Yeah, so that could happen. But Saudis have been openly saying this. We need to have a nuclear umbrella for our safety and we need to be covered by the US. So ये तो पूरा हो गया ना, sir. This thing is entirely done.
So they're getting it if they get that nuclear umbrella. But listen to me, I don't think they will stop at just a nuclear. The USA will not stop there at giving a nuclear umbrella to Saudi. Their eventual aim for both US and Israel would be destroying Iran's long-term capability to develop a bomb. Eventually, the end game, which lies now for both US and Israel, is that Iran's capabilities to develop a bomb should be eliminated. If you look at a lot of the US, you look at the US, they already have it, yeah, but you destroy the delivery means, the command control means, maybe even like if they can't say that the nuclear reactors, if they are put out of commission, put it behind another 10 years. Now look at Israeli television and look at US television when the attacks took place. First they said they came, we stopped them, and we will do it in future. The next line was, out of those 300 warheads, what if one of them had been a nuclear warhead? That's the second refrain which comes all the time.
Channel 14.
Yes. So that in the long term, this war, the way I look at Hamas war, Hamas will be crippled. It will be destroyed. The ideology will come back. That's a different story. Israel will be forced into a peace pact in which Saudi Arabia, look at the game within game, Saudi Arabia will negotiate some kind of understanding of the Palestinian people, in which they will not be recognized as an individual nation, but they will have greater autonomy and things like this. And in turn, they get that pact with Israel and USA, which they're looking for. This is one of the likely manners
You
in
know,
which this game would play out.
this is interesting.
Correct?
Last week there was before this attack, there was a media report on this. Ki Saudis have told the Americans, ki boss, you want us to recognize Israel, get Israel to sit down, negotiate Palestine, and finish it off.
True. True. Exactly. So look at the game they're playing. They are the leader of the Arab world. They have got I wouldn't say just an equal. They have got a solution for the Palestinian people. Palestine as a nation may not come about, but say greater autonomy. This they have been discussing this since 1978, a separate state. They've stalled
Hmm.
it. So they'll give greater autonomy. Fatah will come about in both Gaza and the West Bank. These things will happen. At the same time, Saudi stock has gone about. Israel stock will rise because now it's got peace on its terms. It's won the war, but it's given something to the Palestinian people as well. And everybody else who are fighting for the so-called Palestinian cause, including Iran, which was the only Islamic nation to have done so actively, will be sidelined.
Bloody hell. Now
So,
let's
yeah,
look at the world
possible.
for a minute. Let's look at the world for a minute, sir. USA is retreating, and I'll take you back. Jaishankar Saab, when he went to the US, he sat with the Hudson Institute, right, which is a very hardcore right wing, you know, part of the deep state. He sat with that big guy. I forget his name. Alfred something. I forget his name. Huge guy. I mean, fantastic speaker. Um, he said that the Americans need to create a structure wherein they are not doing everything and regional powers have to do stuff. And that is what we talk about, the multipolar order. So Iran and Israel, multipolar, one big pole coming up there. India, one huge pole coming up there.
Yes.
Now you look at the stuff which has happened last week with Japan.
And the Philippines, yes.
That's a huge pole coming up there. Japanese are converting two of their transport ships into aircraft carriers.
Japan and South Korea.
Yeah,
Look at that poll. And the
that is coming.
Philippines.
And the Philippines, so you've this thing.
Yeah.
So you've basically in the next 5-7 years, you'll see a multipolar order emerging. But the funny part is we are going to be smack dab right in the center of it.
Yeah. Geographically, yes, we're in the center of it, which we can use tremendously to advantage.
Correct, sir.
But the manner in which we are playing our geopolitical cards, thanks to I'm an unashamed admirer of Dr. S. Jaishankar. He is a brilliant foreign minister, and I love his unapologetic stand that we will do only what is good for India and 1.3 billion people. Now, the stance which we have taken, that of strategic autonomy, in which we are doing exactly what suits us best. By following it, we are not being part of any alliance, not even being part of any bloc. But let us put it this way, we have a distinct tilt towards the direction which offers us greater long-term benefits, which is the way it should be. And today I look at it this way. The Indian tilt towards the Western camp suits our long-term interests,
It
while
does. You got
still,
to
main- while still maintaining our strategic autonomy.
Sir, technology कहाँ पर है? Technology is in the West now.
Technology
You need to
wise,
get semiconductor
technology is
कहाँ से
there.
लाओगे?
Absolutely. Investments, foreign in the FDI is going to come from the West only.
Hmm.
Also, ideological leaning, though I'm not much a believer of ideology, but they're more aligned to our values.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll take that. They don't agree to it, but at least the New York Times, Washington Post doesn't agree to it. That is
You
there.
know, yeah, but they do concede it very grudgingly.
Grudgingly.
They
I
concede
think
it.
you need to read that because the amount of जितना वो आपके ऊपर the amount of aggression that they show on you, that's also a level of frustration कि यार बात बन नहीं रही. And that's where I say, sir, we were talking
True.
offline about this. इंडिया के साथ negotiations तो चल रही है, and all the audience, I've done this good cop bad cop routine. I've spoken to you about this, so it's not working in my brain. There you go, another person who talks about pretty much the same thing. Let's get back to the Middle East a little bit, sir.
Uh-huh.
Very small little entity but very powerful entity in the Middle East, which is Qatar.
Qatar,
What
right?
happens to that? What happens to this Qatar entity? And the next question will be the another entity which is there, which is on a sinking this thing, but still a very powerful entity, which is Turkey.
Okay. You know, Qatar, for decades, it has, like they say, it has punched above its weight.
A lot.
They have taken on both Saudi very effectively, their whole and Israel, right? And they have got the financial clout to be able to get away with it. They
Hmm.
also have a standing in the Arab world in which they can. I mean, if you take a look at their playing the cards quite okay in a manner. They're not, and they have kept Saudi at a distance without openly antagonizing it. They did not participate in the operations against Yemen like the rest of the Arab world did. They remained at a distance. Today, a lot of the surprising part, a lot of the back channel diplomacy in the Middle East goes to Qatar. A lot of
Yep.
the peace talks are going to Qatar. So, like their financial cloud, and remember one thing, they have also developed the narrative very nicely through machines such as Al Jazeera. They have
Hmm.
developed a very strong media arm, which none of the Arab nations as of now have developed.
Correct. Hmm.
So, in the war of, they are presenting the narrative quite nicely. They are punching above their weight, and believe me, it is an influential nation in the Middle East just because of the voice and the audience which they have got. They
Correct.
cannot really be, they may not be, their stance and the narrative may not be right, but they cannot be washed away and just sideswiped. The other is Turkey. Turkey is blessed by geography to be in a position where it can be wooed and dominates the communication lines for both Europe and Asia.
Absolutely. Hmm.
And now, more more than geography, it is Russia is wooing it, so is the USA wooing it. They are part of NATO. At the same time, they keep on doing what they want with Russia and with China. Turkey, you say they're on a downward trajectory. With Erdogan, his policies have actually alienated Turkey from the Western allies, which was better
Hmm.
for them. He has also curbed a lot of dissent within Turkey itself. He has also done a lot of very ridiculous actions like attacking the Kurds enclave in Syria, which was quite blatantly anti humanitarian and not really in their best interests.
Correct.
So if he continues at the moment, he's still holding it together because everyone likes a strong man whom they feel is taking the country in the right direction. But the economy is tanking. They're strategic because they've got their fingers on two boats. Perhaps one of the boats will abandon its soul. It could be NATO, it could be Russia.
That's
This state of
interesting.
affairs for them will not last very long. They can
Hmm.
capitalize it for as long as they can, but they'll catch up with them after a while. But
That's
again,
interesting. Hmm.
it is a power which cannot be ignored because of the cloud it contains and the say it has got in the affairs of both Asia and Europe.
That's very interesting, sir. Because one thing that we see suddenly Erdogan losing thoda sa politically, he's lost. He lost the Istanbul seat. And just
Yes,
like in Maldives, anybody who's the mayor of Male is the next president, right? And that's like the unwritten rule. And that's the
yes,
same thing in Turkey as well. If you hold Istanbul, you're the president. But if you lose Istanbul, very
yes.
difficult for the person to come back.
Remember, he won the elections by a whisker. They had a recount. They had to go through to win it eventually.
Yeah. So that tells you politically उसकी थोड़ी सी गड़बड़ होने वाली है. It's not going to be that easy for him. सर एक और चीज बात करते हैं now. Let's say Israelis ने they've kept the psyop up, whatever said and done. मारेंगे ठोकेंगे वो तो मुझे पता नहीं. I don't know whether they will go back and hit the Iranians again. ठोकेंगे ठोकेंगे उसके ऊपर बात करेंगे दोबारा. But they're keeping the psyops up, which is very interesting to me. And इसके बीच में the Rafah operation has started.
Right?
So nobody looking at that. They've
Right.
been bombing Gaza past 2 days. They've bombed it. I think whatever aircraft took off for Iran came back and hit Gaza and then landed. you know, but it's been bad in Gaza, especially the Rafah, the southern border has been terrible. There have been reports of very, very heavy bombing and stuff like that. So, do you feel कि इस tension के बीच में he wants to kind of whatever hit hard he needed to do, he can do that now and get away with it?
Yeah, because like I said, now one of the things this Iranian operation done is it has pushed the Israeli perspective back from the victim to oppressor to back to being the victim once again.
Victim once again.
So in this little window he has got, he will go take action in Rafah, but I have my strong doubts whether Israel will launch its full-fledged ground offensive in Rafah.
Hmm.
They may have the bombings, they may have precision information based strikes. They say they have got 3 Hamas battalions, and most of the Hamas leadership is holed up out there. But
Correct.
how are you going to identify them in 1.3 million Gazans who are now concentrated in the strip? Even if they launch an offensive, who are they launching an offensive against? Nobody, no Hamas fighter stands out here with Hamas shoulder on his shoulders. So I honestly, I don't. They will continue the option, but I do not think they launched an all-out offensive against Rafah. This
Mhm.
is they're only using it to strengthen their positions for the peace talks, which I feel are likely to come about very soon.
In June.
They need the yes, maybe earlier than that. With the peace talks will come about, there will be a release of hostages, which will be seen as a victory for Israel. There will be a
That
ceasefire.
that
Yes,
will be the key. If the
that
hostages
will be a
come out,
victory.
then this whole
Then
thing
it
was a
is.
bloody match.
Then it'll be a victory for Israel. Then nobody, even Netanyahu may perhaps come in stronger than before, for all you know. That is what they're looking for. And then they have already weakened Hamas. And then they have, after that, the talks continue. There are surgical strikes going on within Hamas itself, in which they eliminate them one by one with time. That might be a better, I think, not be a better strategy. That means the kind of strategy they would follow in future.
do you do you buy this whole Netanyahu narrative? Oh yeah, he's the representation of devil and this and that. But I don't buy it. And I'm outright putting my opinion. You can prove me wrong or you can disagree with
Right,
me. Completely
right,
fine. I
right.
don't buy it because if the guy was so strong and he could get his way out in every damn thing, he wouldn't be sitting in a coalition government. He won't have so many protests against him. He won't have corruption charges against him, which he knows he's going to go into prison one way or the other. Let this war finish. They will, Israelis are they're ruthless. They will convict a
Oh,
sitting
yes,
prime
yes.
minister.
Yes.
ठीक है वो नहीं देखते ये प्राइम मिनिस्टर है ये प्रेसिडेंट है उसको उठा के they if they're going to convict him
Yes.
they will convict him. I don't buy the whole all powerful Netanyahu narrative. I think of course there's the great deep state behind all this stuff. Netanyahu probably be a fun face, okay, but he's a strong guy. He's a good guy. He's done a lot for the Israel corrupt guy. But do you buy this whole all powerful Netanyahu narrative?
No, not at all. In fact, I think he's a very weak prime minister. He's one of the
Very
worst prime minister Israel has ever had. If you take a look at his, though he's been the longest serving, he is I think the third or fourth term now.
good.
He's been in power. But if you take a look at his policies, all the policies have rebounded. You see, his policy of he firstly with this government, he needed a hardline. He needed a hardliner to support him. So when the hardliners supported him, they demanded things like we will be allowed to establish new settlements in the West Bank and the occupied territories, which he agreed to, which is one of the reasons which have led to this attacks in the first place. He was a man who funded Hamas, who I would rather say or rather assisted in the
He
funding
was
of
appeasing
Hamas.
them. He was appeasing
Yes,
them, absolutely.
he was because he wanted Hamas to be appeased. So Fatah and the Palestinian Authority are kept at bay, and he will buy peace. Another policy that went wrong. His policy of having changing the judiciary to have greater powers with the prime minister and the government instead of the judiciary caused
Right.
nationwide Israeli protests. Today, as the war is going on, they protested in Israel because now he's trying to appease the hardliners by agreeing to the demand that Orthodox Jews are not permitted compulsory military service. So, his actions are the actions of a man struggling very hard to retain power and stay in power. But they are not necessarily good for Israel. And even somebody like Biden has said that his policies are doing more harm to Israel than good.
True. I mean, Israel is a powerful country. It has a lot of very strong lobbies within America. And never underestimate the Jewish lobbies in America. And I'm not talking about the so-called conspiracy theory that the Jews control everything. They don't. Trust you me, they don't. Because if they were, there won't be that nasty protests happening in Harvard, Stanford, and in the. By the way, they blocked like the main highway in Washington D.C. last night. I
Uh,
mean, there was a huge protest there. So that also tells you, I think it reinforces our discussion that कहीं ना कहीं the lefties are feeling the heat कि यार ये थोड़ा हाथ से निकल गया narrative. You know,
right.
as you said, the Israelis are back to becoming the victim. So,
True.
the lefties aren't very happy with it. कि यार ये तो bloody hell, we spent 6-8 months created this thing, these terrorist attacks which are happening, which is also the last point I want to discuss with you. Russia terrorist attack, China
Okay.
terrorist attack, Iran terrorist attack, Australia terrorist attack, not one, two, right? There's
Right.
been that shooting that happened, and then there's this another attack which happened uh, last night where a Middle Eastern chap has gone and stabbed a priest, a Catholic priest, while he was giving his sermon, and there was a huge tamasha there as well last night. So the the scare of these, a lot of the lefty organizations had become very close to the if I may say, the radical elements within these countries. I think that they by these attacks, one thing is there is that scare will come back. कि नहीं नहीं यार ये ठीक नहीं है, ये लोग ना उल्टे काम करते हैं. So that I think that narrative will they're trying to shift that narrative there as well. What do you think?
That's an interesting perspective. But I'll give maybe another perspective to the same thing. If you
Hmm.
take a look, already mentioned, all these ultra religious organizations thrive in areas of uncertainty. And with the Middle East war going on, with the war in Russia, there's a lot of uncertainty and chaos in that region. One of the things we have forgotten is all of North Africa has been taken over by the IS and its affiliates, by Al Qaeda and its affiliates, because of the instability out there. So perhaps I do not know whether it's part of a larger plan or not. But yes, the current global climate of insecurity allows organizations and elements such as this to thrive. Maybe that is
Yeah.
why we are seeing an increase in these attacks.
So there's an Axios scoop which has come out right now. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is planning fresh sanctions for Iran, vowing that the US, and I quote her, will not hesitate to inflict economic punishments to the Islamic Republic's unprecedented attack on Israel. There you go.
That's nothing
Right, sir.
to that's
That's
expected. Right,
yeah, yeah.
right.
That's called the icing on the cake.
Um,
You know, interesting. Yeah, I mean,
but
let me
it is something like what they're saying is they started it. They hit me back first.
yeah, let me just state this: the priest was an Orthodox and an Arab himself. He was a Archbishop, Arabic Assyrian Church. The point is, we've seen the kind of recommendation that came out in Australia last week when that mall attack happened, and again this time, the narrative in Australia would have changed completely because I don't think anybody is going to stand with those Hamas board carrying protesters anymore. That's going to shift to a large extent. Let's get into some questions, sir. There is one question I wanted to ask you, but an audience did put a question there, so I'm not asking you that particular point.
Right.
But otherwise, we'll get into the questions. And guys, we've got what 2,400 people watching us right now. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. They what 669 likes. I'm sure we can do more than that. You
Wonderful.
guys do. Please don't feel shy of hitting the like button and hit it hard without breaking the screen. So please do that. Subscribe to the channel. Share these videos with your friends and family, people who are interested in geopolitics. ऑल्सो आप लोग इस चैनल की तरफ कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं यूजिंग क्यूआर कोड जो ऊपर है, नीचे पेपैल डिस्क्रिप्शन में है, जो देश के बाहर रहते हैं, या फिर सुपर स्टिकर, सुपर चैट्स या मेंबर्स बन के भी. लेट्स सी व्हाट यू गाइस हैव टू से. ओके, first thing, Yodha Singh ji, thank you so much for becoming a member. Then Parth, thank you so much for your contribution. He says, what is the future of Saudi and Vatican as BRICS evolves? Saudi and Vatican.
Vatican, yeah. The
Okay.
Vatican, of course, I would say it is not really linked, but Saudi BRICS is evolving. You've already had five more nations. Is there with Saudi being part of the global south, as the moment, of course, got his fingers in two pies, but as part of the global south and part of this regional setup, which India is heading, there's no reason why they cannot be part of an expanded BRICS, which could
Yeah.
be an alternative, which would be an alternative G20 or something on those lines.
Actually, if you look at the founding statement of BRICS, it's very interesting, sir. People forget that. The founding statement of BRICS says it's a positioning platform to reform the world order. And it
Yeah.
said that in the statement itself, that this is what we all want. Because the West is not agreeing to our demand, so we need to create something else to
We
kind
need
of,
our own forum, of course.
yeah.
But there's a very interesting question by some Rajesh Agarwal. He says, "What
Yeah,
if Iran uses its dirty bomb haphazardly?"
yeah. I have that
Nuclear
as
system,
start. I have that as
right?
a start. We will go through that. J. Sri
Right.
Prasad, thank you so much. What are the chances of Erdogan going the Saddam Hussein way? Wow.
Good question. But no, unlikely. Saddam Hussein was different. If you take a look at it, USA had the grounds. They had already attacked Iraq in 1999 when they made the mistake of Iraq made the mistake of attacking Kuwait. And then in 2003, once again, they attacked Iraq on the cockeyed basis that they are developing weapons of mass destruction. But no, because Erdogan, remember, he now look at it, he is a member of NATO. In the NATO Article 5 says if an attack on a NATO member by anyone will be treated as an attack by all. So if you're saying if USA attacks a NATO ally, nah, it won't be able to do it. But
They will be able to discredit him and take him out.
discredit him, political assassinations, selective assassinations. Well, these are the games which big powers play. Should any of them play out, I wouldn't put it beyond any of the big powers to do so if it means keeping their own interests intact.
Agreed. Human being, thank you so much. He says, invite Adam Seeker to know the true face of cult Islam. Well, he does a fantastic job on his channel. Yeah, mine is more of geopolitical. This thing. Rishi Karan says, how stupid are these Middle Eastern people who are fighting for no reason? They aren't fighting for no reason. They're fighting for a reason, which is somebody else's reason. So yeah, they are stupid.
Yeah. No, in fact, the root cause of the conflict, if you take a look at the Middle East conflict, was the Palestinian people and the land in the manner in which it was haphazardly done. It was even worse than the division of India and Pakistan. But then the more important reason why the Middle East is in perpetual turmoil is oil. Remember, it was a man like Kissinger who
Mhm.
himself said oil is too precious a commodity to be left in the hands of the Arabs. It is because of that they were continuously interfering in it and trying to control it up there.
Akashji, what would happen to the access of opponents to the present day global order, or whatever is left of it, if Iran and USA were to mend their fences? Of course, China would throw a tantrum.
You know, the possibility of, if you just take a look at history, Iran and USA were very good friends with
Very
the
good.
Shah of Iran, and they were very good friends and allies till 1979. When the Ayatollahs took place, the revolution, they deposed the Shah, and the Ayatollahs took place, and they had the US embassy siege, in which I think almost 200 US people were kept hostages for over 2 years. The US
Yes.
launched operations to rescue them. The helicopters crashed. It was a fiasco. The roots of the enmity is as deep, if not deeper, than the enmity between Iran and Israel. Now,
True.
mending the fences will be difficult. USA will be very tempted, I'm sure they will be thinking of it very often, to do what they did with Iraq: intervene, have a regime change, put democracy and the normal thing, and leave with a new regime in place and a country in shambles. But they will not be able to do it with Iran because it is much bigger, much, much more powerful.
Hmm.
USA would definitely try. In fact, the aim of USA is to have a regime change in Iran in which the Ayatollahs are moved out and a more moderate government which is aligned towards the West takes over. With China, remember, there are, geography plays a huge role. Iran and China are closer. The sea lanes of communication and the purchase of oil, which China can do, it's already purchasing oil for the next 25 years from Iran. So
Yeah.
that bond will not shake so easily.
That's one of the reasons why he wants to come into Afghanistan, create that line right into Zaran's Dilaram, get into Iran somehow. And, we already have that road. He doesn't mind
Chabahar,
using that. Give us money for it. He won't mind doing that because he's quite desperate at the moment, and Pakistan is not working out for him. So you're absolutely right, sir. Spot on. Rishikaran, once again, it's a very interesting comment. We must be proud of our foreign policy that we don't get sucked into this BS. We must focus on building ourselves to the right place in time to play our hands. World at war.
very good, brilliant. Rishikaran, I mean, yes, you have hit the nail on the head. Our foreign policy is doing just fine. The one thing which I'm seeing, one shortcoming in our polity and our press and our media, is we are too loud. We must continue developing exactly as you said. Develop yourself militarily, economically, in every field through our alliances with different people without tom-toming it too strongly.
Yeah.
Announce ourselves when the time is right, which should be sometime between 2030 and 2035.
Yeah. Several GCC countries, including Saudi Arabia. This is a two-part question, so bear with me, sir. Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates passed on intelligence about what Iran's plan to attack Israel, uh, according to the Wall Street Journal. And of course, there's no coincidence in foreign relations, economics above geopolitics. Not always, but the first part. Would you like to comment? GCC countries sharing
Yeah,
intelligence. I think we've spoken
we had
about this.
covered that. We had
Yeah.
covered that. It was deliberately done. In fact, Iran was supposedly to have passed the information to Saudi and Jordan, and they deliberately used those slow-flying drones so the information could be given to Israel so that damage would not be done. So I think it's part of a staged attack. And like you're a geoeconomics about geopolitics, everything is economics.
Hmm.
Everything is geoeconomics. All war
Some
is in fought for economics, and building up a nation, building up national power is all dependent on building up your national economy.
Yeah.
So the two are, you cannot divorce the two at all.
The problem, if you guys see with China, is that it plays geopolitics first rather than the economic part of it. And that's where he actually takes the dump, because now if you look at Cambodia, for that matter, it's sunk in so much money in Cambodia, and that Reem Air Force naval base. He's got the naval base, but that entire region is become a ghost town. There's nothing there. There are 500 projects which are half done. Chinese have gone away because there's no more money. It's become a ghost town. Look
Hambantota.
at Hambantota. Another 2 years, Hambantota stuff will start crumbling. Who's going to maintain it? Sri Lanka will say, boss, I'm not maintaining it. It's your port. You do what you want to. Where will China get the money from? So it's great to make these ports and stuff like that on your own. I think it's rather better to actually get somebody to make it and you get the rights to use it, which is what we are trying to do. So that you don't have to maintain the damn thing. I mean, the maintenance of a port is ridiculously expensive. So our Anand says, in this potential situation between Saudi Arabia and Israel, which sidelines Iran, could Oman use this to recognize Israel and strengthen their arbiter position. Also, implications for Yemen with a stronger Saudi Arabia.
See, Oman, the Arab states have already begun the process of recognizing Israel through the Abraham's Accord. It would have been much faster had this war not broken out, but it will happen with time. Now,
Mhm.
Yemen, with a stronger South, as you know, Yemen is a different story altogether. Yemen is another proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Saudi Arabia is supporting the ruling government of Yemen. And in fact, when he ran and took refuge in Saudi Arabia. It
Yeah.
was Saudi Arabia which launched a coalition which attacked the Houthi rebels in Yemen, supported by Iran. So, if you take a look at a stronger Saudi Arabia, no matter if Saudi has been and its coalition has been unable to curb the Houthis for 10 years now.
Hmm.
The Houthis have been damaged, the refineries in Saudi Arabia caused them too much damage. So, whether they're strong or weak, the Yemenis problem is a different problem. The Houthi rebels have got different. They will not be able to curb it in the manner they're doing it right now. That civil war is, I would say, it would take a complete session to discuss the whole thing. But a strong Saudi Arabia or a weak Saudi Arabia will make no difference to what's happening. Saudi, in any case, already kind of divorced themselves from the war. They have detached themselves many years ago.
Yeah. This is the question you wanted to answer. What if Iran uses a dirty bomb haphazardly if its nuclear facilities are either hit by Israel or America?
See, a dirty bomb can be used. A dirty bomb is not really what is it? It is radioactive material which is dispersed and it emits radioactivity. It causes illness, a few deaths, exorbitantly expensive to clean up the radioactivity thereafter. But Iran won't do it because it is too that it's what you call it, the Lakshman Rekha. Using nuclear weapons by a conventional state will be crossing a boundary which no nation will forgive thereafter.
Hmm.
And even if its nuclear facilities are bombed by Israel or USA, they may
Still,
not use a dirty bomb. They may activate proxies, they may do a lot of damage to consulates and things like this. But I doubt if any conventional nation will use nuclear weapons or radioactive material because, like I said, it'll be crossing a thin line. Terrorist
the
groups, yes. The Islamic State, yes. Al Qaeda, yes.
yeah, the Israelis did that experiment now with they tested 24 dirty bombs, and if I remember correctly, they realized that the dirty bomb is deadly only if you're standing within 150 feet of the explosion.
Yes.
And I mean, if you're dropping a 500-pounder bomb with some radioactive elements, 150 feet, you'll as it is die. So I don't need the damn thing to be dirty to, anything. And they realize that the radiation levels, when it gets spread, it's only that 50, 70 meters that it's very, very high. And that dissipates really fast because the the radioactive the I mean the chemical experiment does not the chemical reaction does not take place. That's why the radioactivity doesn't grow to that extent. So these were
Yeah, it
these
is very
serious.
low level. It causes more panic than anything else.
Yeah.
And it's very
Shastri,
expensive to clean the radioactivity.
correct. Shastriji asked whether Hamas has been done with.
See, Hamas is, when you say it's been done with, what will it imply? It implies killing the top leadership, of which one has been dead, two are badly wounded. It implies destroying the cadres, of which I believe they're down to only 3 battalions right now. It employs destroying their war fighting potential, which means destroying their rockets, their missiles, their tunnels, and things like this. All this can be done. I mean, the top leadership, except for the top two, are virtually eliminated. They're down to the cadres. They have lost about 10,000. They would be left with maybe about another 10,000 or so. Their weaponry has been taken away, but the ideology of Hamas will continue.
Gee.
It's a terrorist organization. Tomorrow it is gone. One of the children of who have been orphaned in Gaza now starts that same ideology of Hamas all over again, maybe 2 or 3 years down the line.
Yeah, yeah.
You cannot defeat it through physical destruction. You have to counter the ideology. Until they do so, Hamas will continue. It is a Hydra, a terrorist organization, Hydra, which keeps on resurfacing in another form.
Yeah.
Let me give you
You
a
look
small thing.
at
Yeah,
Nazis.
Kashmir. Kashmir, look at Kashmir. Why is it coming back to stability? Because we gave a good ideology. We promoted an ideology of peace and development in which that forces were coming from outside. That is
Right.
why we won the narrative.
Yeah.
Israel has gone the other end. That's why it's losing the narrative.
Samrid says, sir, can Israel ask the USA for a terrorist attack inside Iran by the ISKP, keeping the Shia Sunni issue in mind? Big threat for Iran. Big threat for Iran, that is.
You know something, Das. The attack on Iran by the Jaish al-Adl, which
Jundallah.
killed about 200 mourners who were mourning Soleimani's death. It That organization again is loosely affiliated to the ISKP, but it's an organization which was founded and funded by the USA, by the CIA in 1990. So many of the organizations whom the USA is combating, they are friends with the splinter organization. Now, how they use it are games within game, but they will use these splinter organizations to destabilize the enemies. Like Russia, that concert attack was a little too pat and came at too right a time. It was a message was being sent. The attacks in Iran were again a message being sent. If you use proxy organizations, we will use the same back to you.
Same. Last three, sir. Ajay, sir, with all the attacks made by Iran, only hypersonic missile without warhead landed in Israel. What is the hidden message?
Good,
One.
good, good, very, very good. You
That
see, if
thing,
you
by the
take a
way,
look at the
before you begin, sir, sorry, did you see the video of that thing evading the air defense? Oh man, it
yes,
was insane. Last minute maneuvers, it just insane, absolutely insane.
this is a brilliant question, a very good
Yeah.
question. Thank you. Also, not only the hypersonic without a warhead, it was a message that we can get through when we want to. Look at the composition of the missile of the attacks. Around 300, 120, I beg, 170 of them were drones. About 120 were ballistic missiles. About only 30 were cruise missiles, which would get through. And look at the targets they hit. The only sensible target that was hit was a US, I beg your pardon, Israeli air base in the Negev desert.
Hmm.
We do not know how much casualties they caused.
One,
It was,
one season.
they say one girl, but in that air base they will not reveal it. But okay, it might have been the only sensible target. So obviously, the whole thing, like you said, was it a hidden message to Israel? Yes. The entire attack was a message to Israel and the world to say we have the wherewithal, we have the capabilities, don't push us any further. But now, like as also put in, the matter may be termed as concluded.
Apart from that, but one thing is lies exposed quite a bit. The drone technology that the Iranians have got from China, a lot of those drones actually fell in Iran. Some of them fell in
Yes,
Israel, in Iraq. One drone was caught in a high tension cable in Iraq, and that damn thing was hanging upside down with the propeller rotating. So a lot of, as a matter of fact, the ballistic missiles have caused some damage in the Dead Sea area, in the this thing. So somewhere down the line, that thing also got exposed. Ki yaar, itna acha nahi hai. Second last one, Mr. India says, why would Iran give Israel so much time to take measures against an impending attack? Is it to show that the billions of dollars needed to waste to take down $1 million drone and missiles?
good,
That's the question.
good, good, very good, very good. Like I said, the whole thing was a messaging. But another thing got very interestingly is that each of these $60,000 drones required something like of a $2 million missile to take them. You know, so there were two messages. One is the swarm. In the swarm, we can send you a faster swarm, a faster moving swarm, or with some will penetrate.
Hmm.
And the other is it's exorbitantly expensive. So yeah, a very good observation more than a question. Thank you.
And Satyam Singh says, please answer. Khalistani Pannu India को धमकी देने पे freedom of speech, लेकिन रिद्धि पटेल को अरेस्ट कर दिया क्यों? गवर्नमेंट सेम लॉ के अंडर पन्नू को अरेस्ट क्यों नहीं करवा रही? आप ही सवाल का जवाब दे रहे हो सर.
I think we'll stick. It will be a little beyond the scope of today's subject. Let's stick to that.
No, it's basically he's trying to why I wanted to take this is highlights the certain amount of hypocrisy within the Western system. That's how the game is
Of course.
played, guys. That's how the game is played. You know,
Yeah.
you gotta kind of
Yeah.
stick with that. Sir, thanks so much. Fantastic
Thank you
show.
very
We and let's catch up probably in the next week for another geopolitical event, and
Definitely.
let's see how that thing goes. Guys, before you sign off, we need to get a lot more likes than they are on the screen. Yeah, we crossed 1,000, so thank you so much. Uh, and I'll catch up with you at night with Abhijit Iyer Mitra. We're talking about a whole another set of geopolitical events. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Jai Hind. Thank you very much, Ali, and all the viewers. It's